Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to talk about for loops. So, just like while loops, for loops, I'll put that in caps, for loops are loops. However, they are a little bit more complex to write. However, they're also more useful um, for coding and whatever other purposes that you would need a loop for. So the basic context of a for loop is it's actually better if I code it since it's not as easy to see without an example. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to delete all of the things from last time. So I'm just going to write out a for loop before, and then I'll explain everything piece by piece. So the way that we write a for loop is by writing for int I is equal to 0. I is going to be less than, let's say, 10. I plus plus, and then you have your code right here. And what I did here is a multiple line comment. It's not really anything big. It's just a whatever your slash is, and then an asterisk, and then I can just hit enter, and asterisk slash will be followed by it, and then whatever is in the middle will all be commented out. For my color scheme, it is this magenta color over here, whereas line comments are this blue green. So in the middle here, you have your code. So let's talk about what this for you know for loop does. So we're gonna go over everything, and there are three main parts for within the parentheses. So the first one, and they're all separated by these semicolons. So you have part one that says for int I is equal to 0. So int I, you can set that up. You can make it like you can make that int j. You can make that int index. Any kind of variable. This is something you set up, but usually it is set up within the for loop. I've never seen anybody set up, the int I is equal to 0 and then try to complete the rest of the for loop right here. So this is usually not a good way. You have to write the int I is equal to 0 here. You can start it at 0. You can start it at whatever place you want. That's completely up to you and depending on what you want to achieve. And the second part is kind of like the conditional statement, but it's more of how many times you want it to repeat. So while I is less than 10, so this is going to repeat a total of 10 times because it's going to start from 0, then it's going to go to 1, 2, 3, all the way to the 10th one. Once it finishes the 10th loop, it'll come back up and it'll become 11. 11 is not less than 10, so it'll stop after 10 total iterations. And then this final part is the I++. If you remember from our while loop lesson, I++ was seen over there, and it basically updates the value, which basically says when it reaches the end of the code segment within the body, increase I by 1. You can write I is equal to I plus 1, but I++ is standard convention here, and it looks much cleaner as well. Again, you could flip it. You could write I is equal to 10, while I is greater than 0, and then instead of I++, you have I minus minus. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that version, so I'm going to go ahead and redo that. So the reason why for loops are actually more useful than while loops is because the first thing is you have all of your updating and looping things right here in a single line of code. If you recall from our while loop, I'm going to just quickly write a while loop right here. So I'm going to have int count is equal to 0. Is equal to 0. While count is less than 10. And then I'm going to have code. So if you look, and then at the very bottom of this, I need to have count plus plus. There we go. So the differences between these two are quite drastic. So right off the bat, you can see that the while loop, all it does is it loops 10 times, and you have to manually update the counting variable, and you need to manually set it up here. Whereas for a for loop, you have it already set here, you have the conditional statement, and you also have the updating happening all within the same line. So all you have to worry about is this inside code. You don't have to worry about this or anything else. And the good thing about a for loop is that it is mainly used for iterating through indexes of arrays or substring values or something like that. So with a for loop, you can have something called a nested for loop. So what I can have is I can have another for loop within this, and I'll just name it int j is equal to 0, j is less than 10, j plus plus. And let me just show off how this works. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a print statement over here, and it's going to run through the print statement within this for loop 10 times. Then it's going to finish through that code, and then it's going to reach here and it's going to update one time. So basically what it's going to have is it's going to have it's going to iterate through this basically 10 times here and then one time here, 10 times here, one times here. So let me just put out a print statement. That'll be a little easier to see out. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have system dot out dot println, and I'm going to have this is variable j, so I'm going to call it variable j, and I'm going to have plus, and then I'm just going to say j. So it's going to tell me whatever the count is on, and I'm going to basically copy and paste this value at this spot, but instead of variable j, this is actually variable I, and I'm going to replace that with an I, and I'm going to get rid of this while loop because it is of no use to us. Now I'm going to run this code, and let's see the output. So it's building, might take some time, but hopefully it doesn't take too long, and let's see the output. Okay, so here we have the output, and I'm going to go through exactly how this works. So as you can see, you have a lot of variable j's and i's and all that going on. So let's see how this works. So first you have variable j. Again, I'm going to show you that variable j is the inner for loop. So it's going to iterate through variable j 10 times, 0 all the way out to 10, but instead of going back to 10, it goes back to 0. This, however, is a total of 10 times, counting the 0. Now it says variable I has completed 0, it's going to move on to 1. Now, once it moves on to 1, we see that variable j once again starts its count all the way from 0 to 9. Now variable I is 1, right? We keep going down through j's, and then we see the variable I is now 2. So at the very, very end, you can see that variable, oh man, this is too long so that it won't even show me, but you're going to basically see that in the end, variable I reaches 9, which is the maximum value if you look at it from the value from 0 to 9. So that in and of itself makes 10, and then this iterates through 10 times every time this iterates through one time. So that's basically for loops. And after we learn all these loops and we've gone through if statements, while loops, and for loops, we can jump into a little bit more fun and actually more exciting pieces of code, since simple statements like this aren't really fun and they're not really useful. So until then, thank you.